Hey everyone, in today's podcast, I'm covering a subject which I wanted to be the first subject of my podcast series. But I wanted to take some time before I jumped onto more profound topics as these are difficult to tackle. Often ignored and looked down upon topics by most, as we humans are inherently perfectionists, or at least we try to be, which leaves a mark on our intellect and moral lens such that we stop differing right and wrong from true and false. Today's podcast may sound theoretical, but trust me, by the end of it, I'll share a mantra with you that has helped me become alive finally. After a philosophical uprising within me that happened 8 years ago while I was in the ICU, it helped me become who I really was supposed to become, my true self. Now there's no more a separate Mohit from the shadow Mohit. The person you know as me is the same in and out. If it sounds confusing, keep listening. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is one of the most profound and transformative ideas in his analytical psychology. He described it as the archetype of the unknown dark side of his personality, the sum of all those aspects of ourselves that we repress, deny, or hide because they clash with our conscious real image, the ego ideal or societal norms. Jung emphasized that the shadow isn't purely evil or negative. It contains not only inferior or morally reprehensible traits like anger, jealousy, selfishness, greed, aggression, laziness, shame-laden impulses, but also positive qualities we've disowned like vital instincts, creativity, assertiveness, realistic insights, and untapped potential. The more we reject these parts, the denser and more autonomous the shadow becomes, often leading to self-sabotage or projection onto others. Jung famously wrote, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it gets. At all counts, it forms an unconscious snag thwarting our most well-meant intentions." He viewed the shadow as an archetype rooted in the collective unconscious, meaning it draws from universal human experiences, our animal ancestry, primal drives, while being uniquely present in content. Now let's learn how the shadow forms and manifests. The shadow begins developing early in life. As children, we learn which traits earn approval, the persona we build, and which invite rejection or punishment. We shove the unacceptable parts into the unconscious to maintain belonging, safety, or self-esteem. Over time, this creates a split: the bright, adapted ego versus the hidden, compensatory shadow. Now, the common ways the shadow shows up when unintegrated. First, projection. The most frequent manifestation. We spot our disowned traits vividly in others and react strongly through judgment, irritation, admiration, envy. The people who trigger us most intensely often mirror our shadow. Overreactions, emotional floods, sudden rage, defensiveness, or disproportionate shame when something touches a repressed wound. Self-sabotage, undermining success, relationships, or goals right when things improve. Then addictions, compulsions, or numbing behaviors, escapes that let forbidden impulses leak out indirectly. Moral hypocrisies, depression, or emptiness. On a collective level, Jung saw that shadow fueling prejudice, scapegoating, wars, and fanaticism, entire groups projecting their disowned darkness onto the other. Let's learn how the shadow in relation to other Jungian archetypes. Jung didn't treat the shadow as one among many equal archetypes like the hero, mother, or trickster. Instead, it is foundational, oppositional counterpart to the persona, our social mask, and stands beside the ego in defining identity. It often appears in dreams as same-sex figures, a dark twin, thief, criminal, beggar, or menacing stranger, or in myths, fairy tales as villains, monsters, or doppelgangers. So modern interpreters map shadow versions onto the 12 personality archetypes, which were popularized by figures like Carol Pearson, such as the innocent, the idealist who seeks safety, happiness, and paradise, or the warrior who seeks to prove worth through courageous acts, disciplined, strong, and protective, or the caregiver, driven to protect and care for others, compassionate, generous, and selfless, and many more. These are extensions rather than Jung's original framework. The core shadow remains the broad repository of the repressed. Now let's learn the path to integration, individuation. Jung saw confronting and integrating the shadow as essential for individuation, belonging a whole, authentic self rather than a fragmented persona. Integration doesn't mean unleashing every impulse. It means conscious ownership so the shadow loses its autonomous destructive power. Jung outlined a rough process, often simplified into steps by later analysts. Through recognition, notice projections, triggers, and recurring patterns. Ask yourself, what do I despise or envy in others that might live in me? Or through acceptance or an ownership, without judgment, acknowledge this belongs to me. This requires humility and courage, and it deflates the ego's illusion of moral superiority. Or through dialogue and exploration. Use active imagination, dream analysis, journaling, or therapy to meet the shadow figure. Give it voice. What does it mean? What does it want? What fear or gift does it carry? Through differentiation and conscious expression, channel the energy maturely. Raw aggression becomes healthy assertiveness. Envy fuels ambition. Shame transforms into self-compassion. And lastly, accept that it is an ongoing assimilation. This will be a lifelong thing. As we grow, new layers will emerge. Well, the reward is immense. Reclaimed energy, greater creativity, deeper relationships as there's less projection, and a sense of wholeness. Jung believed true maturity and enlightenment came not from banishing darkness but from making it conscious. He said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. If you'd like to explore this personally, a small starting point could be noticing one strong judgment you told towards someone right now. What quality in them stirs discomfort, and gently turning the lens inward, see what comes up for you when reflecting on your own shadow.